Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
And hello, viewers. This is
Wonderful.
Sulekha Chandra, founder of Gyan Paradise. And Gyan Paradise today is having a very special guest, Dr. Ashis Sen. He is my emotional intelligence guru. So I feel really very privileged
Thank you.
to welcome Dr. Ashis Sen in my session today. Welcome, Ashis sir.
Thank you so much for inviting me over.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I would like to tell my viewers about you, about the grandness that you have achieved so far. Dr. Ashis Sen is a managing director at Ashis Sen Consulting and Coaching, and he's also the chairman of Emotional Intelligence Forum of Learning India. He's also an adjunct professor with TAPMAI Management Institute. He has headed learning and development of Fortune 500 companies like HPCL and Larsen and Toubro. He has a BE from VNIT and a PhD in collective achievement motivation. He's been globally recognized for his organizational level interventions and work on competency mapping, emotional intelligence, and leadership development. He has a very impressive list of clients, let me tell you that. Plus, Dr. Ashis Sen has received several awards like Lakshya, BM Manjul Awards for Learning and Development. He has received recognition on innovative HR practices during Dave Ulrich's visit, the Learning and Organization Award from Peter Senge, as well as the recognition from Daniel Goleman and Richard Boyotsis. Both of them are the EI gurus. He is a prolific speaker and has several publications to his credit, national and international journals both. And this session is dedicated to the insights from his best-selling book, Fueling Success, which has been co-authored by Dr. Ashis Sen and has received wide appreciation from Indian institutes of management across India. So Dr. Ashis Sen, we are very, very happy and we congratulate you on the success of the book. And we would like to understand and know from you what inspired you to take up this challenge of writing this book and why this fueling success. I'm very curious about the title.
First of all, let me thank you for your kind words. Uh, it's a pleasure, it's a privilege to be, I think, talking about this book because it's a story, it's a saga of a large number of people working in an organization, Hindustan Petroleum. Fueling success, maybe because I work in the fueling industry, the petroleum industry. I put in 32 years of my life in Hindustan Petroleum. Why did I get to writing this story? That's a good question. I think having undergone, been a part of a movement which was transformational for Hindustan Petroleum in terms of changing its belief systems, in terms of changing its financial results, in terms of actually working for seeing that its people are happy, energized. These are change of belief systems which we experienced. And I thought that if we don't talk about such stories, how do we replicate them? We are depriving the world of some very good, valuable knowledge on how organizational change can be interesting, delightful, and enjoyable experience, which people can look forward to when they transform for the better. So
Amazing.
that's the reason why we wrote this book. I had, of course, as you see, co-authors, but
Yeah.
uh, and therefore, when we were writing this book, we were writing from our experiences, and the story emerged. We didn't have to think about it.
So tell us something. There is an interesting story about Mr. Darwin visiting you in this book and particularly for the book. Could you please tell us something about that?
Dr. Darwin is no more. He was
Oh,
a giant in the field of psychology.
oh,
He was a professor at A&M University, very kind-hearted, very nice. And when he came in, he said, "You need to write this story."
oh,
So, for example, how does an organization which is facing the challenge of getting privatized from a public sector unit, and there is fear psychosis, in a large section of its people, which is a good corporation, good organization, but misses out on being great because there's always room for improvement. In a challenging situation of getting privatized when the employees' morale is low, how do you energize them? By creating a vision, a shared vision in which they were a part. How do the people then thereafter actually act in a manner which is completely or significantly different from yesteryears? Instead of being a process focused company, they become a customer focused company. Instead of thinking that we need to listen to directives and work as per the directives as passed on to us by the government or by our seniors, they start thinking of initiatives which can make the customer happy, which can actually help them achieve their vision goals. It starts, and it all starts, as always, with people creating a picture of the future in their minds. So we saw that while the first vision of Hindustan Petroleum in those trying times, and that was around 2003, about to be privatized, Hindustan Petroleum, the directors and the chairman, along with the executive directors, wrote a vision for the company, which was for the next 3 years. But in a course of a year and a half, probably about 3 to 4,000 employees had sat down in small groups across the country and just answered a few questions. What do I want my company to be?
Okay.
How will it look and feel? So as they answered this question, they found that they wanted themselves to be a customer-focused organization, delighting them. They wanted to be an innovative organization. They wanted a workplace which was seeped in trust, pride, and camaraderie. They wanted the stakeholders to be their partners, and they wanted to be a learning organization. These were tall goals which if you give it to the people, they don't accept. But when they create challenging goals which are far, far more challenging than one that can be ascribed to them. And we found that their involvement in creating the vision actually brought in commitment and ownership, and they wanted to do something. So region after region wanted to actually become first in market share growth. They put up number of outlets of petroleum products which they had never put in terms of the numbers and the significant increase in proportion compared to yesteryears. So we saw many things happening which had never happened before. People felt, and I can recall stories when they actually beat a competitor somewhere in Chhattisgarh, a small place in Chhattisgarh. They said that we have won, sir, we have won, we have beaten the competition. So there was a sense of personal pride, because without a sense of personal success, no organization success is going to ever happen. So how did we align individual goals to organizational goals? How did people align their values to organizational values? And when the company succeeded, felt a sense of personal success. That's the saga, that's the story.
That's the
That
story.
is what we want to talk to people. And this book actually relates not only anecdotes, but the templates of such stories which can be replicated in other organizations. We believe we need not reinvent the wheel. So
Awesome.
that's how we came to the story. And Darwin, as we said, he was an inspiration. He was constantly goading us, and several parts of this book, I think, would never have seen the light of the day without his involvement, without his ideas, without his inputs. So that's how his contribution was immense. And he actually, as you say, enjoyed Indian food, enjoyed our hospitality, actually was kind to see that he made us feel not only comfortable, but he made himself comfortable in an alien land, in a different world. But then that was Dr. Darwin.
And his forward is very, very impressive. And while I was listening to you, I felt immersed, as it's so mesmerizing to listen to such beautiful stories. Sir, I would also like to ask you, I understand this whole exercise continued for 3 years, the visioning exercise, and it brought massive change in the organization, massive transformation. According to you, how did the emotional intelligence lessons in this book shape the process of, thought process of the HPCL employees?
Uh, the emotional intelligence piece is a very critical piece. If you see, at the end of the day, it's not only Hindustan Petroleum.
Mhm.
In fact, we were a good organization in terms of energy and motivation the people. But repeatedly, we have seen many of the Indian organizations actually suffer because the work environments are toxic. And if a large number of people, which exceeds 60 to 70% in many organizations, actually come to office with a burden on their shoulders, they think of work as monotony.
Monotone.
They do things because they're compelled to rather than they feel ownership for. Instead of motivation, they feel despair.
Yes.
I think work can be terrible and work is terrible in such contexts. I don't know why we should have that. I don't know why should people suffer from that. Incidentally, research by Hay Group, now called Conferry, shows that from this, I think it was around 2012 or so when they did this research, 2 out of 3 Indian managers from the sample that they had are toxic by nature. That's a very large number. So the ratios are against us. And if actually you expect the best from the people, managers must give the best in terms of influencing them and inspiring them, understanding them, valuing them. So, as we found that from a Gallup survey and others, that there was a lot of room for improvement for us. We worked on emotional intelligence competencies of our leaders. And that part of the story is told in some other book. But the important part is, as managers changed and they understood that their job is not doing things by themselves or not monitoring people alone, but inspiring them because we are overmanaged, we are micromanaged, we are rarely led well. And when you are having change, when you are having uncertainty, when you are having difficult challenges, you need to be led because people will not give their best in difficult, unknown navigate areas which have not been navigated. They would not experiment and explore when you have a fixed government job and you can get the salary otherwise. They shall only do that if they feel inspired. It started with the chairman, Mr. M. Bilal, and then the next chairman, Mr. Arun Balakrishnan, who actually believed that the people are key to success. We bet on people, they said, and and therefore strategies do get implemented. So the more we worked on the leaders, the managers, and tried and made efforts and through a structured curriculum, helped them learn the competencies of emotional intelligence as was postulated by, in line with the work of Richard Barthes and Daniel Goleman. We did so many workshops within the company. We trained so many people. We had mapped their competencies and then coached and mentored them. We saw a sea change in the culture. We saw changes in the way people actually connected with the organization as in a sense of ownership. And that's how this is the most critical piece of the book and the most critical piece of our intervention of actually creating leaders that matter.
Thank you so much. That is a wonderful, wonderful insight.
No,
I
thank
would
you.
like to ask you one more question, sir.
Mhm.
This definitely speaks volumes about how Indian management system, the leadership system in organizations, both in PSUs and in corporates, need to go a huge transformation in thinking and in practice. With your vast experience in capacity building, what do you think are the critical management lessons for students?
For students, I think a few things would be interesting for them to learn. Many of the students we select from institutes are normally one who have good CGPA, who have good academic performance.
Mhm.
It's important. It's important. That's a differentiator. But since all of them actually are very good students, they all have the same or similar level of aptitude in terms of the work that they do. As long as they're individual contributors, good students actually manage themselves well so that they can give excellent performance. The problem commences more when they are expected to lead people. And I work with organizations where they're expected to lead people from the very beginning, like today, Indian Railways. Even a new officer has about 100, 200, 500,000 people.
To
And
manage.
then a new I mean, the new IRS officer, who is maybe an engineer,
Mhm.
needs to understand, instead of doing the work, he has to get the work done by other people. He has to set the goals, but he has to give freedom for others and to others to have choice on the goal setting. It's not easy. That means there has to be a lot of influence. He has to actually evaluate them for their performance and also give them learning goals where he cannot evaluate but actually appreciate and support and mentor. So on one area he has to develop them. On the other areas on performance goal he has to evaluate them. He has to actually encourage new ideas, but he has also to be consistent to see that performance happens. So there are rules to be followed, and then he has to be innovative. He has to allow innovation. So these are very contradictory goals they have to learn to manage. And for the new students or the students, new officers who join after their academic performance has been recorded as very good in MBA colleges and or engineering colleges, they need to understand these contradictions. They will have to work through people. They will have to work with people. So they need to understand not only the work, but the people who will do the work. And that's a very big challenge for them, because as of now, when they were in academics, they performed by their dint of intellect and hard work. They did not have to depend on others, and suddenly they know they have to depend on others, and it's a very different ball game. If they don't learn people skills, all their skills, technical skills, their functional skills will come to a naught. So that's the challenge which they need to learn: how to communicate,
So much.
how to have interpersonal skills. Thank you.
I came across with this question particularly because a lot of students, they ask this question particularly. They feel that they don't want to work under anybody. They don't want to have a boss. But then even in entrepreneurship scenarios, they always need to deal with their clients. The client is definitely somebody's boss. And in order to get business, you definitely need to have good interpersonal skills, good negotiation skills, which again require you to be submissive to some extent, assertive to some extent, which is a combination of skills that we teach in emotional intelligence. So that was
Absolutely.
really insightful.
In
One more
fact,
thing.
yeah, sorry. In
Yeah.
fact, very good question. If you see many of these startups, which start with one or two people, they may actually do well initially when they have a few people on board, and you know the kind of bossism we sometimes see, even in a small organization, continue to work. They ask, demand, and they get results. Of course, they deal with stakeholders, they deal with customers. But the problem happens when they become a little larger. As they succeed, the very styles which actually gave them success are the seeds of destruction. They have to let go, and they hold on too tightly. So in the initial days, for an entrepreneur, the skills that is there in an entrepreneur is very different from the one who actually heads a stable organization. Letting go is a must. Trusting others for getting performance is a must, which is not so necessary when you have just a couple of people reporting to you. But how do you do that in an organization with 1,000 people, 5,000 people, 100,000 people? It's just not possible. So working in a Fortune 500 company or in a large organization is completely different from a small startup which has two people, right? So that's where the challenges actually begin. But Sulekha ji, yes.
Thank you so much. One more thing, in this situation of COVID-19 going on, We are witnessing a lot of change. We are witnessing a sea change in educational system, in the way we are doing business, in the way transformation, technological transformation is happening. In your book and in your talks, I always have noticed that you laid a lot of importance on research. So right now, what is your take on research field when everybody is home? How is it that people can utilize time and their effort in researching about things that can be helpful? Some tips
Uh,
for the people, for students, for corporate executives. What should they research
Actually, there
about?
I don't know so much about this, but I do know that there is a lot of research happening because I've been actually approached to do some research on how the changes in behaviors actually are observed, seen, perceived, and in executives who are sitting at home and doing the work. I know from my own inquiries with several executives that they are finding it pretty uncomfortable. Though now they say that working from home is a valid request, many of the senior executives find it extremely discomforting and difficult. The reasons are very clear. Uh, they have been accustomed to a particular style of functioning, all of us. So if we have a debate, if we have a discussion, it has to be in a room where we can probably deliberate, discuss, dialogue, and come to a conclusion. Online, they find it difficult because those kind of emotions, those kind of bonhomie, and those kind of threads threads of discussion which can be for a period of time with sitting across with each other, very meaningful, sometimes seem to be missing in a Zoom talk.
Agreed.
They're more polite in a Zoom talk. They're more polite. They're sometimes they feel they're sometimes less effective and more polite. So these are the challenges. But there are many other challenges. I think it is also uh, very disconcerting for people to sit down at home for a long time, for days and days and weeks, and they feel that the real world is different from just a virtual world. Communication needs to be at an arm's length. No, they
Exactly.
need to be across the table. So many of these things are happening, but we will understand more of it as we interact with people. I think there is some good research that is happening at several of the IIMs also and top institutes on COVID-19 and its impact on human behavior, executive behavior, organizational behavior.
Yes,
So
sir.
thank you.
Thank you so much. I think definitely our viewers have enjoyed this conversation and have lots of takeaways. As far as research point is concerned, competency building is concerned, as far as visioning exercise is concerned, as far as getting inspired and aligning your personal goals with organizational goals is concerned. But yes, times are not there to stay. This too shall pass. And
Mhm.
I would like to show my viewers this book that's there on Amazon. Let me share the screen for a moment. Fueling Success: How Emotional Intelligence Helped HPCL and its employees to grow. It's co-authored by Dr. Ashis Sen, Dr. Darwin B. Nelson, Dr. Surya Rao A. So this is on Amazon Kindle version. So see you everyone. Please do read the book and post your reviews. We will be definitely waiting for your comments. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Sain. This has been a
Thank you
wonderful,
so
wonderful
much.
session with you, sir.
Thank you so much. It was a privilege and look forward to interacting with you in the future. Thank you so much, Sulekha ji.
Thank you and have a great day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank